Let's start in a child's pose today. So come onto your mat. Um, you can take the knees about hip distance apart or even wider at about a mat distance apart and letting the hips sink through the thighs. Or you can bring the thighs together and let the torso drape over the top. If you take that second version, you'll get a nice deeper stretch on the low back. And your arms can be out in front of you, or they can come down to your side, reaching towards your feet. And just starting to arrive here on your mat. This very humbling position. Starting to take the breath deeper into the body. And from this child's pose, really noticing the expansion on the back of the body. So we talk a lot about the breath on the front of the body. This pose gives us an opportunity to feel it on the back body. So really breathing into the low back and the mid back and the upper back. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. And whatever might be coming in the mind, the thoughts, the worries, the anxieties, letting those be put aside for the next hour or so, and giving yourself this time to focus on the breath, this prana energy. Bringing this awareness around the breath, the feeling of the breath, maybe the sound of the breath. This breath, as we breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, often sounds like an ocean wave. And allowing this rhythm and sound to be the metronome for your movement. Feeling the body soften around the exhale and grow stronger on the inhale. Taking a few more breaths here as we prepare the body to move. As you come to your next exhale, begin to walk your hands over to the right side of the mat, pressing into the hands, letting the left hip move deeper back. Think about accentuating the crease in that left hip. You can make this pose as active or as passive as you would like. Taking a deep breath in through the left side of the body. Inhale to come back to center and exhale to walk over to the opposite side. This time hands are at the left and the right hip moves deeper back behind you, getting a nice stretch on the side of the body. Inhaling through the right side, exhaling through the left. And inhale to come back to center and slowly rise up onto your hands and your knees. And start to take your hips into some circles, taking any side of choice or any direction of choice. You can move as far forward as you would like. And find the rhythm of your breath. So moving And still having this awareness with your inhale and your exhale. If you haven't switched directions, do that now. Starting to find some movement in the body. And then as you come back to center from this hands and knees, tuck your toes and lift your hips up to the ceiling for a downward facing dog. For these first few breaths of this first downward dog, maybe pedaling out the feet, filling up your body with breath. So we've changed the plane of the body, but that breath is still full. Really think about finding that expansion from the right side to the left side of the torso and also the front and the back. So the belly button moves away from the spine on the inhale. Take one more deep breath here, maybe starting to come into some stillness as the heels move down toward the earth, shaking the head yes and no. And then start to walk your hands to the back of your mat to your feet so you land in a forward fold. In this forward fold, start to bring a little bit more weight into your toes so that the front of your body works as the back of your body releases. Head, neck, and shoulders relaxed. You can give it a nice shake out, yes and no. And then take your opposite hand to your opposite elbow for a ragdoll pose. So with your hands or your arms hanging heavy, you can start to sway forward and backward or side to side. Taking those nice deep inhales and exhales, filling up with breath and slowly letting it release. Release your hands. Hands come down to the earth. And with your inhale, the hands come up to the shins or the thighs to extend the spine. So we'll be here in this spinal extension for a few breaths. Think about reaching forward through the crown of the head. The chin is slightly tucked down and back to find more length in the cervical spine. And the sit bones keep reaching back behind you, finding more length through the spine. There's still a little bit more weight in the toes than in the heels. Take a big breath here. Notice your shoulders, whether they're coming up to your ears, and roll them onto the back of the body. Find a little bit more length with your inhale. And exhale to bow forward into a forward fold. One more breath here, and we'll take that spinal extension one more time. So as you come to your inhale, breathe up the length of the spine, reaching the crown of your head forward. Sit bones reach back. Shoulders are down the back. Take a deep breath in and exhale to release into your forward fold. Plant your feet, shift your weight into your heels so you can sit back. It's kind of like you're sitting into a chair. There's a deep bend in your knees and start to rise up to standing, breathing up your arms as they reach toward the ceiling, and exhale, hands down into your heart center. Inhale to reach arms around and up, and exhale to swan dive to your forward fold. Inhale to that halfway lift, spinal extension, and exhale to bow forward. Plant your feet, bend your knees, rise up using the strength of your legs. Arms reach up with the inhale, and exhale, hands into heart center. Again, reaching arms up, feeling the length on both sides of the body, and swan dive to your forward fold, keeping that length in the spine. Inhale to that long back, and exhale to bow. Lift up with your inhale, hands come up to the shins or thighs. And then plant your hands onto the earth and step back to the back of your mat and lower your knees. So we're back into that tabletop pose. Hands move forward slightly, squeezing the shoulder blades on the back of the body so the shoulder blades are hugging the spine. And then slowly lower yourself, keeping that hugging sensation on the back of the body. So we're down on our belly, shoulder blades still hugging the spine, and inhale to lift the chest off of the earth into a low cobra. So opening through the shoulders here. Keep pressing into the earth, but we're not pressing ourselves up. We're lifting ourselves with our back body. So we can find if we are pushing or lifting by lifting our hands up, and we still stay up in this low cobra. Your hands can come to the earth. Just keep that squeezing sensation on the back of the body, the lace side of the shoes to the earth, and take a look over your right shoulder. Take a few breaths here, feeling that nice stretch on the neck, maybe down into the pectoral muscles on the opposite side. And then coming back to center and over the other shoulder. This time the gaze turns to the left. Keep hugging the spine. Coming back to center and lower yourself down to the earth. Your left hand out to the side, we're gonna move into shoulder pigeon. So left hand reaches out and start to roll onto the left side of the body. Your right hand can come underneath the shoulder for support. You can stack your knees on top of one another, or you can reach the legs out. The left leg will stay straight, and the right knee bends with bringing the right foot to the back of the knee. Your choice here. Find your position where you get a nice stretch on the front of the shoulder. You can walk your hand or your fingertips up or your fingertips down. About 8 breaths here. Deep belly breathing. Notice where the thoughts are taking you. And your energy flows where your attention goes. So bring that attention back into the breath, back into the body. Filling up completely with breath. Taking one more full breath here. And then starting to roll back onto your belly. That left arm slides in right underneath the shoulder blade, and press yourself up to the hands and the knees. You might have to walk your knees in slightly. We want the knees right underneath the hips and the wrists right underneath the shoulders. With your next inhale, lift the left arm out in front of you and the right leg back behind you for a spinal balance. Pressing into the right hand and to the left knee, find extension through the body. From that extension, we want to feel from our belly button or from our center. And at the same time, as we're reaching in these opposite directions, we're hugging into this center line, finding the strength of this pose. Take one more big breath here. And with your exhale, keep the leg lifted, but bring the left hand down to the earth. Kickstand the left leg off to the side of the mat and open into Vashisthasana, side plank. You can keep that right leg lifted, or you can bring it the big toe side edge of your foot down to the earth. Find an opening here, breathing into the front of the body, lifting up through the left hip. You'll also feel this wrap around from the left glute. It feels like you're pressing your pelvis forward slightly. And then if you would like, you can reach your arm forward, getting a nice deep stretch on the side body. Take one more big breath here, finding space anywhere you can inside the body. And exhale to slowly release, coming back down to hands and knees. Inhale to lift the tailbone up toward the ceiling, and exhale to round the tailbone toward the heels. Doing a couple of these modified cat and cow or pelvic tilts. Inhale to lift the tailbone up, and exhale to round the tailbone down. You can grow this pose if you would like. You can really round through the spine on that exhale, coming into more of a Halloween cat-like pose, or dropping the belly down toward the earth and opening up through your heart on the inhale. Take 2 more full rounds of breath. Again, finding that ebb and flow, that rhythm of your breath in your body. And coming back to hands and knees. Keep your right hand planted. Lift your left arm out to the side and up toward the ceiling and thread the needle. So the left hand moves in between the space between the right wrist and the right thigh. You can keep your hand planted with your elbow at a 90 degree, or you can reach that right arm forward. You can even take a bind where the back of your hand moves to your low back or grabs the inside of the left thigh. We'll be here for about 5 or so breaths. So we stretched the front of the shoulder, and now we're stretching into the back of the shoulder. Breathe to the sensation. One more full breath here. And then start to slide that right hand back and place it right under your shoulder so you can press into the earth and unwind that left arm. Breathing it back up to the ceiling before placing it back down onto the earth. Walk your hands forward, squeeze your shoulder blades on the back, and start to lower yourself down to the earth. This time we'll come into a Sphinx position. So the forearms reach out in front of you, about shoulder distance apart. Place your forearms onto the earth and pull the forearms energetically back, bringing the heart opening forward. Keep squeezing the shoulder blades onto the back. The lace side of the shoes or your feet press into the earth, as well as the pelvis. The back body is working so that the front of the body can start to release and open. Feel your breath on the back of the body, especially at the end of the exhale. Feel the entire muscles hugging into the spine. One more big breath here. And then exhale to come back down to the earth. Hands can come underneath the shoulder, forehead rests on the earth. This time, stretch the right hand out to the side of the mat, coming out to a T, and start to roll on to that right side. Again, you have options with your legs. They can come into more of a fetal position, stacked on top of one another. That will protect the low back. Or you can stretch the legs out, bringing a bend into the left knee and the left foot down behind the right leg. Use that left hand for support. Find your stretch, finding your edge by walking your fingers up or down on the mat or on the earth. 8 breaths here. Notice where you might be able to surrender here a little bit, softening through the body. Maybe that's a physical release inside the body, a letting go. Maybe it's deepening the breath. Take one more full round of breath here. And then starting to roll yourself forward onto your belly and pressing yourself up with your hands to that hands and knees position. Knees stacked right under hips, wrists underneath your shoulders. Press into all 10 pads of your finger. With your inhale, reach your right arm forward and your left leg back. Shoulders and hips are even. Find more length through the body from your center line. Hugging it in and reaching in these opposite directions. Feel your strength here. And use your breath to support this pose. Take one more deep breath here. And then keeping the left leg lifted, start to bring the right hand back down to the earth. Kickstand the right leg off to the side of the mat and start to transfer onto that right hand so the left hand lifts up. Your gaze can follow the hand up toward the ceiling, or it can look straight ahead. It can even look down toward the earth. You have an option to keep that leg lifted, or you can bring the big side toe or the big toe side of your foot down to the earth. Lift up through the right hip. It's that wrapping of the glutes around. So we're using the right side of the body to find more length on the left side of the body. And finally, your hand can come over the ear, reaching forward. The breath is the movement in this pose. So find one more deep breath here. And then exhale to unwind, coming back down to the earth. Take a few breaths with movement here, whatever that choice is for you. You can take some hip circles. You can bring one hip down to the side and keep it there, having a nice stretch on the hips. You could even take some of that cat and cow-like movement. 2 full breaths. When you find your center, that tabletop position, breathe your right hand out to the side and up toward the ceiling, and then thread that right hand through the left side, coming to thread the needle on the opposite side. You have all those different hand or arm variations. Take what you would like. It doesn't have to be the same on this side, it can be different. Beautiful. 3 to 5 more deep breaths. Using your breath, become an active observer of the process in this pose. Can you deepen the breath even more? Can you open up into this pose a little bit more? Start to slide the left hand back underneath your shoulder if it's not there already. So you can press into the left hand to reach the right arm out and up and coming back down to the earth in that tabletop position. Find yourself back into that child's pose. 3 deep breaths here. Connecting back with the breath, back with the inner body. And inviting this deeper awareness into the body, into the mind. With your next inhale, come back up to hands and knees and exhale to tuck the toes, lift the hips into a downward facing dog. Pressing into the hands, feeling that shift up and back of the hips and letting the head and the neck hang heavy. Keep pressing into the hands, and with your inhale, lift your right leg up toward the ceiling. Find a little bit more length here. So imagine that you're pressing your hands into the earth and lifting through that foot like you're pressing the earth away from the sky. And exhale to slowly bend your knee, bringing it in towards your nose and setting your foot in between the hands. So from here, this low lunge, we're setting our foundation. So press into your right foot. All 4 corners of your right foot are rooting down. Feel that energetic shift back of the right heel back and the left knee forward, and then hug in to that center line. So you're hugging in, both thighs hug in. Reach your arms forward and begin to rise up into a high crescent lunge. Deep breaths here. If it feels uncomfortable for your shoulders or your arms to reach straight up, give yourself permission to just take that wider arm so it's more in a V rather than straight up. But keep that energy moving through the arms and shining out of the fingertips. Notice the rib cage. The bottom of the rib cage is down. And then breathing into your belly. Think about a soft belly and a strong back. Your back is what is supporting you here. And if you feel a little bit of a wibble or a wobble, that's okay. This is actually a balancing pose. Take one more inhale here. Find a little bit more length through the waistline. And then exhale to shift into a warrior 2. So the right knee is stacked over the ankle. There's this rotation of that right thigh outward, and then pressing into all four corners of the left foot and sinking the hips a little bit deeper. Now this is a hip opener. Arms reach forward and backward. And as we're reaching forward and backward and finding that extension, there's also a slight squeeze of the shoulder blades along the spine. So again, we're opening through the front of the body and exhaling on the back. The back is the part that's working. 3 deep breaths here. Breathing into the pose, bringing life to this pose with your breath. With your next inhale, reach forward, the elbow comes to the thigh and the left arm reaches overhead. You can reach forward along the diagonal, so you have this long line of energy from the left fingertips all the way down to the left toes. And press into those left toes just as much as you're pressing into the front of the body or the right foot to counterbalance all that weight that is forward. Take 2 more deep breaths here. Slowing down the breathing. And inhale to come back up to center, warrior 2. And the left hand comes down to the thigh or to the hip. Open your right palm toward the ceiling. Reach forward and reverse the warrior. Keep that bend in the right thigh and reach up more than you reach back. So it's not a back bend, this is a side body bend. Breathe space into all of the muscles between the ribs. Take 1 more deep breath here. And then come back to center and inhale to straighten that right leg. It should feel pretty good. And you can walk your left leg in about a foot. And we're gonna take triangle pose. So the thing about triangle pose is that we want our pelvis as much facing forward as we can. So as we bring our hands out into this T-like position, we're gonna stretch forward. The left hip is gonna shift back. And when we can't reach anymore, we float the hands down to the shin or the thigh. So I know that we could probably go a lot deeper or even touch the floor if we change the shape of the pelvis, but the intention of the pose is to find more opening. And to do that, we can keep our hand high. So it doesn't matter how high that right hand is. We want to feel a space and opening on both sides of the body. Take 2 more deep breaths here. If there's any place where you feel closed or scrunched, change the pose to find more spacing. 1 more deep inhale. And with your exhale, bring a bend into that right knee, coming back up to a warrior 2. And we'll cartwheel the hands to frame the right foot. The back toes pivot, so all the toes are facing forward. And from here, we're gonna go to a little bit of a twist. So keeping the left hand on the floor, we're gonna open up the right hand up toward the ceiling. Keep the hips lifted slightly so that we're not dumping into that left hip, and press back through the left heel. Maybe you can open up a little bit more. Take 1 more big breath here. And then exhale to bring the hand back down to the earth. And we'll step our way forward into a forward fold. Bring your feet about hip distance apart, just to get a little bit wider into this forward fold. You can sway forward and backward or side to side, or grab your opposite elbows and take that ragdoll. Head, neck, and shoulders, allow them to be soft. And think about breathing so deeply that your breath feels as if it's reaching up into your hips. Maybe you can lift the sit bones up a little bit higher. And with your next inhale, hands come up to the shins or the thighs to extend the spine. Breathe more length and exhale to bow forward. Walk your feet out about mat distance apart, toes wider than heels, and begin to bend your knees so that you can bring your hips in between, coming into a low yogi squat or malasana. So here we want the pubic bone tilted forward. You can use your elbows to press the inner thighs outward to get a deeper stretch on the outside of the hips. Notice where you might be holding or avoiding this pose. And breathing all the way down into the pelvic floor. Soften the shoulders, release the tension from your jaw, your forehead. Two more breaths. With your next exhale, hands come down to the earth. And you can step one foot back and then the other, bringing the knees down to the earth, squeezing the shoulder blades onto the back and lowering your heart down to the earth and open into any back bend of choice. So you could take an up dog here or a low cobra or a sphinx pose. Take 2 breaths. Keep squeezing the back of the body in order to open the front of your heart. And exhale, heart and chin come back down to the earth, pressing up to hands and knees, and eventually into a downward facing dog. Take a few breaths here, find some movement, moving the hips from side to side, anything that feels best for you. And start to come back into stillness. And with your next inhale, lift your left leg back behind you. Again, pressing earth away from sky. Rib cage is on the back of the body. Press the right heel down. Find more length. Breathe all the way up to the toes. And with your next exhale, slowly bring the knee in toward your nose and set the foot up in between the hands. From this low lunge, setting up the foundation of our high lunge. So energetically dragging back the left heel and the right knee, hugging into that center line. So all of the energy and the strength is coming from our legs as we reach our hands forward and inhale up to a high crescent lunge. Press the right heel back. So we're getting this nice stretch on the front of the hip. Arms reach up toward the ceiling, or they can come to that V. And slow down the breath. Notice whether your breath is compromised from this pose. Starting to extend and smooth out the inhales and the exhales. Notice the support here of the back of your body. As you come to your next exhale, begin to open up into a warrior two. You can walk your legs a little bit wider if that feels good. Keeping the left knee right over the left ankle and still finding that outer spiral in the left thigh. So we're opening up through the hips. Arms reach forward and backward. Again, feeling that extension, but also a hugging in on the back of the body. Torso is right in between the feet. Reconnect with your breath. With your next inhale, start to reach forward. The left elbow comes to the left thigh, and the right hand reaches up and overhead. This nice long line of energy from the right set of fingertips to the outside of the right foot. And then really press into that right foot to counterbalance all of the weight that is forward. Make sure that you're pressing into the thigh with your elbow so that there's space here on that left side. We're not collapsing into the left side of the body. And feel an opening here. So we're trying to stack the right shoulder on top of the left, opening up through the heart. With your next inhale, coming back to warrior two, and we'll reverse the warrior. The palm opens, reaching up, keeping a small bend in that left knee. So we're reaching and creating space on this left side of the body. Slow down the breath. Coming back to center. With your inhale, straighten the left leg. You can step your way in. And again, we're looking for the hips to be parallel so that they're not shifted halfway over that left thigh. They're facing straight ahead, arms reach forward and backward. Start to reach over the left foot as the right hip reaches back and then floating the hands down. And then trace this pose with your breath. All these long lines of energy from fingertip to fingertip, from your hip up to the crown of your head, and from one foot up to the hip and down the other foot. So we're making that triangle-like shape in the legs. Your gaze can look up, straight ahead, or down toward the earth. If if there's anywhere in your body where you feel collapsed or closed, open yourself up, change the pose. Take one more deep breath. And exhale to bring a bend back into that left knee, coming back up to warrior two, and cartwheel the hands down to frame the left foot, pivoting on your right foot. This time the right hand stays planted and lifting the left arm up toward the sky. Feel that twist in the pose, like a ringing out sensation from your center. Keep the hips lifted, the sit bones reaching back behind you, especially the left sit bone. Keep pressing back through the right heel. Take one more breath, maybe deepen the twist, and exhale to come back to center. This time we're gonna walk our hands around, all 10 toes face forward, so we're in a wide-legged forward fold. First, find that extension through the spine here. So the crown of the head reaches forward, sit bones reach back. We're pressing out through the sides of the feet, but also bringing a little bit more weight into the front of the foot. And then exhale to bow forward. Go as deeply as you would like here. You can reach your hands underneath the legs to get a little bit deeper stretch. Find your breath once again. Two more deep breaths here. Lift the sit bones up. Let any worries run down the hips, giving it to the earth. Let your spine pour out of your pelvis. With your next inhale, lift your spine up, pressing into the earth. Feel that length. And start to walk your hands around to frame the left foot. And step your left foot back into a downward facing dog. You can choose to take a child's pose here, either staying in a downward facing dog or a child's pose for 5 full breaths. Allowing that time to come back to your breath. Feeling this space that you are creating in your body. This awareness in the body and in the breath. Feeling the opposites of the breath as we expand and contract, as we move away and also come back in. And with your next exhale, begin to lower your knees down toward the earth and sit over onto either side of your body so we can roll onto our backs on the mat. You can move your knees in towards your chest, hugging them in, rocking side to side, or maybe moving in a circle over your tailbone. Keep your right knee hugged into your chest. Let the left foot come down to the earth and flex through that right foot, cross the right ankle over the top of the left knee for a figure 4. So you can stay right here. If this is a nice stretch in your hips, this is a perfect place to be. If you would like to thread your hands through to the back of the left thigh, bringing the legs in closer to your chest, getting a deeper stretch on the outside of the hip, you can also move into that more intense stretch. No matter where you are energetically, we want that right knee moving forward and out to the right side. 5 to 8 breaths here. Still smoothing out the breath, taking those full, deep breaths. Couple more breaths here. Where can you go a little bit deeper? Maybe that's taking the tongue off of the roof of your mouth and relaxing through the jaw. Maybe that's surrendering into a deeper position. Maybe that's just staying present in this pose. And then releasing the left foot down to the earth if you have it lifted. And you can stretch that left heel out as you hug the right knee into your chest. Maybe take some circles there. Moving into a half happy baby, grabbing your toe or the bottom of your foot and pressing the knee out to the outside of the shoulder and extending through that left leg. Releasing that half happy baby, bring the right foot down to the earth. Keep that left leg extended so the left foot is flexed. Press through that heel and take a couple of deep breaths into the front of the left hip. And then take your heel about 1 inch off of the earth. We're still pressing through the heel. We're not lifting it too hard, and start to move the foot just slightly to the outside. It's like you're swinging your leg side to side. It's not a big movement. Just getting into the hip flexor and the psoas. Slowly moving side to side. And then lower the heel back down to the earth. Take this right knee and cross your body, moving it to the outs or to the left side. So it's like you're rolling onto your left side. Your shoulders are opening. You can even bring that right hand out to the out or to a T with your left hand to the outside of your right thigh for a spinal twist. Three deep breaths here. Your energy flows where your attention goes, bringing it back to the breath and to the body. And begin to unwind. Do any finishing pose of choice with that left leg, maybe opening it out, the hip out. So coming into like a half cobbler's pose or squeezing it into your chest. And as you're ready, we'll switch sides. So bring the left leg in to meet the right in your chest, maybe rolling it out. And then setting the right foot down to the earth with the knee pointed up, flex through the left foot and cross the left ankle over that right thigh. Again, you can stay right here, or if you want to go a little bit more deeper or an intense of a stretch, you can thread your hands through to the back of that thigh. Press the left thigh forward and out toward the left side of the room. And you can use your elbow to do that if you want to go a little bit deeper. Eight or so deep breaths here. Notice the rhythm of your breath. Coming back to that oceanic sound of your breathing. And let this breath support the outer body here. Breathe to the hip, breathe to the sensation. Take the tongue off of the roof of your mouth, soften through your jaw. And begin to unwind, bringing the right foot back to the earth if you have it lifted, and you can stretch that right heel forward. Bring the left knee into your chest, maybe outside of the hip, maybe even bringing some hip circles here. And then a half happy baby. Keep reaching through the bottom of the right foot here. So even in this half happy baby, we're stretching to the front of the right hip. And then bring that right foot down to the earth, knee pointed up, stretch through the right side. Breathe deeply into the front of the hip. And then lift that right foot off of the earth or the right heel. Keep the foot flexed. And the heel is lifted about an inch off, and you can start that swaying from side to side, that very subtle. Stay with your breath. And then come back to center and lower the leg back down. And this time we'll cross the left knee over the right to the right side of the body. So your right hand can come to the outside of the left knee as you roll on to the right side. And your left hand opens up. Keep both shoulder blades onto the earth. And begin to unwind the pose, coming back to center. Stretch the legs out in front of you and the arms back behind you for a good last full body stretch. And then coming into your final resting pose, the hands can come along the side, your sides. If you would like any props or blankets or anything to support you here in this Shavasana as we finish up our practice. Let the breath come back to more of its natural state. Surrendering into the earth. And as you settle in here, I wanted to read you something that I found this week that really resonated with me. Sometimes you need to move slowly so you can later move powerfully. The modern world is so fast-paced that there is pressure to keep up. Setting aside what everyone else is doing and moving at your own natural speed will help you make better decisions and lift up your inner peace. And that resonated with me just because in yoga, I feel like that's really what has taught me to move slowly. So that first sentence again is sometimes you need to move slowly so you can later move powerfully. Shavasana. Start to bring breath back into your body. And also with that breath, an awareness into the physical body, the space and the mind. Starting to bring movement into the fingers and the toes, rolling through your wrists and your ankles. Maybe even rolling your head from side to side. And as you're ready, rolling onto either side of your body into a nurturing or a fetal position. And using your arms, pressing yourself back up to a seat at the top of your mat. Your eyes can stay closed or at a soft gaze in front of you. And with your inhale, reach your arms around and up, gathering all of this positive energy that you've created today. And bringing your hands together in front of your heart, knowing that everything that you need is inside of you. With your thumbs against your heart or your sternum as an extension of your inner body, bowing your head to acknowledge yourself and your practice today. Thank you so much for letting me guide you. I hope you have a great day and rest of your week. The light in me honors and recognizes the light, strength, beauty, and grace in all of you. Namaste.